What's happening, Panda Nation? Peter Von Panda here. I just went live. I don't have my lights set up. That's a rookie mistake. But I wanted to spend the evening with you. It's been a big day. You saw the videos from earlier. Pretty excited. We've got 6 figures subscribers here at the Panda channel, which is cool. But I know you are probably quarantined. And if you are, you're probably looking for ways to entertain yourself. And so I thought I would share my favorite movies that no one has heard of. And so I picked out a handful here. I think these are hugely underrated because I just love these. They're my indulgences. I can watch whenever they're on TV, and most of these are never on TV. And I'm going to start with the most popular movies and go to the most obscure movie because some of these were reasonably decent box office successes. I mean, reasonably decent. They may have actually lost money at the box office, but some of them I like well enough that I thought I'd throw them in there. So the most popular ones, we're going to start with that. What's good? How's it going, Dino Man, Wiener Wagon? Welcome. So let's start with this movie. It's a Sylvester movie. You may have heard of it. It's called Driven. It has a dual meaning title because it's about race cars. And I think Formula One cars, and it's about a kid who's really driven to be successful, and Sylvester Stallone is kind of coaching him. It's a little bit like Rocky for cars, and really cool movie. It was not well loved by the Sylvester Stallone fans, the action movie fans, nor car guys, but I actually thought it was pretty good, and I can't remember the girl that's in it. I think she's Canadian or something, but I really like her. I didn't see her in anything else. But Gina Gershon's in it as well. Driven. I liked it. It's kind of a satisfying movie. Just check it out. All right. So let's get on to the next one. Now, this one's a dark movie. It's dark and kind of a creepy. It's a little bit of like a horror movie, kind of. And it is called 1 Hour Photo, starring the late, great comedian Robin Williams, but it's a total dramatic role. There's absolutely no comedy in it. It's actually interesting. He works at a 1 hour photo lab, which you might recall in Walgreens. You can get your photos developed there, but he does that, and he basically sees the intimate details of everyone's lives. You know, when you think about dropping off your photos to get developed, you know, the person that's doing them, make sure that they look right and everything, is just seeing every portion of your life. So he gets to see everyone's life, and he's basically a little bit of a sociopath. You know, he's a crazy guy, and yet he knows everything about everyone. So it's kind of an interesting movie. Like I said, not a feel-good movie by any means. It's a little bit of like a psychological thriller. So I really liked it. I didn't like it actually. I went and saw it in the theater, I think, when it came out, because I thought it would be kind of funny, but it wasn't, and I didn't really like it. It was kind of like too creepy. It's like unsettling for me, but I've kind of really learned to appreciate it. So NFH, Wiener Wagon, Dino Man, Ricky McKay. Hey, welcome everyone. So glad you guys are here. All right, number 3 was also a little bit of a box office success, I think, but I really liked it. It was Tristan and Isolde. It actually stars James Franco, young James Franco, and oh my gosh, now why can't I think of Sophie Myles? I think that's her name. I really am a big fan of her. Loved her and everything. She was like in Underworld, and she's just been in a lot of stuff, and she's super cute. I really like her. And Tristan and Isolde is basically the King Arthur, right? The Guinevere. Is that King Arthur? The Lancelot Guinevere story. You know, the king has a queen, and his knight falls in love with his queen, and it's a love triangle, and it's kind of interesting, but I've never really liked that story. But this story is a little bit more, it tries to root itself a little bit more in reality. It's not a realistic movie by any means, but it doesn't play to the standard fairy tale tropes, I think. It's a little bit more of, it doesn't use the names, first of all. He's Tristan and she's Isolde. So, but I was going to say, or vice versa, but that's not right because Tristan is a dude's name. But what it does is it takes that story and kind of makes it a little believable, kind of doesn't just go over the details like, you know, the Richard Gere movie, you know, and just kind of pushes like common sense aside to fit the story. It makes some sense, and it was good, and it was a little gritty, and it's a little bit more like taking the Guinevere and Lancelot story and Batman beginning it, you know, So I really liked it, actually. And it has some good action in it, but has a cute actress in it. Now we're starting to go a little bit more off the beaten path. Although this one I think did fairly well in theaters, but this is, I think, my last movie that was maybe a box office success, and that is Bedazzled. And not bedazzling your jeans with rhinestones. This one is Bedazzled, starring Elizabeth Hurley, who I was always a huge fan of, and Brendan Fraser. Interesting, Elizabeth Hurley came to Chicago once, and I think she was at like Macy's doing a signing for Revlon or some cosmetics line. And me and some co-workers wanted to go down there and see her, but the line was out the door of women, so we didn't. And we just got lunch. Anyway, Bedazzled is a comedy, and it's a funny movie. Elizabeth Hurley plays the devil. Brendan Fraser plays a unwitting 40-year-old virgin, basically, and she is granting all his wishes, kind of helping him out for selfish reasons. But it's a funny movie, and I enjoyed it, and I've seen it a number of times because it's a guilty pleasure of mine. All right, now we're going to start really going off the reservation. And these are some names. I assure you that of the titles I'm about to give you, some of these you will never have heard of because I'm not even sure that the stars saw the movie. Wiener Wagon, you saw that 20 years ago. Which one? Probably 1 hour photo, maybe, I'm guessing. That one's old. Driven is probably pretty old, too. And it's this movie. And it's actually one of my favorites. I have seen it a number of times. It's Outlander. And it's not the Outlander that's on Showtime right now with Katrina and the Jamie guy. This one is an interesting movie. And it's kind of like... it's one of these that tries to be a little bit of the history of humanity. And he's basically an outlander, an alien. He's a human from another planet, and he inadvertently brings an alien to Earth. It's like if Ripley on Aliens had crash landed in another planet, not Earth, and brought the alien to another planet. And he crash lands in Viking time, I want to say. And I don't really know what the century would be on that, but he crash lands and is found by a bunch of Vikings, because he's an alien with technology. He can learn the language and whatnot, but he's brought this kind of predator alien with him, and it's terrorizing and eating everyone, and he has to kind of rally the Vikings to hunt it down. I think that's basically the plot. And then dragons become kind of the lore of humanity, and it's all supposed to be the origin story for that. Now, it's interesting because Sophia Miles, I think that's her name, who is also in Tristan and Isolde, is also the love interest in this movie. And it's an accident, but I'm a huge fan of hers. So Outlander is one of those that this movie, I think, is just way underrated. Production value is really good, actually, I think. And it's just kind of an action-packed movie. It's got some interesting kind of twists in it. It kind of ends on a high note, and has some twists at the end too. So I liked it. It's just a kind of a satisfying action kind of macho guy movie. Now, this one, I actually thought a lot of people knew the movie that I'm about to tell you, but I was mentioning it to some of my friends recently, and they were like, "What? I've never heard of it." Paul the Alien? Do I have to see that one? That's not the clip that Paul Rudd always shares, right? When he goes on Conan O'Brien or Jimmy Kimmel or something, right? That's a different movie, I'm assuming. But anyway, maybe I'll check out Paul the Alien. Is it good, Ricky? It's this movie, and it's top secret, and it stars Val Kilmer. And I haven't seen it recently, but I used to love this movie. I would watch it over and over again. It's basically the same guys who did Airplane, so it's that kind of over-the-top, literal joke, slapstick humor. It's funny and irreverent and offensive. And it's obviously just outrageous and nothing's to be believed. There's a scene that's important because cows have boots. So that's on the front there. But it's just funny because they're in France trying to fight Nazis. And one of the French soldiers is named Latrine. And they all speak in French accents. And one of the parts, Latrine is like, "I have a massage for you." And he's like, "A massage?" And he's like, "For you." Message. Anyway, there's just lots of funny gags in this movie, and there's a lot of visual humor. I really loved it. So I don't know. This movie didn't do as well, especially given that Airplane is like an iconic comedic movie. And this one is just as funny, dude. and even more clever in some ways. Now, this last one, I wouldn't say it blows my mind in terms of movies, but it's a movie I've seen a couple times, and I actually saw it on the airplane for the first time because I would have never discovered it, and it's the real Howard Spitz. And I'm going to say, hey, if anyone here has seen this movie, I want you to comment below because I'm going to bet a week's wage that no one viewing this right now has ever seen this movie. It stars Kelsey Grammer, and he actually plays this guy, Howard Spitz. He's a author that's struggling and decides to write a children's book because he sees money there, and it does become very successful. And it's somewhat frustrating because as a respectable author, you don't want to write these stupid children's books and find your fame that way. But he ends up becoming famous, but he is reluctant to take credit for it. So he hires a face man, basically, someone else to kind of be Howard Spitz because he doesn't want to sully his own reputation, I think. I'm kind of trying to pull from the archives here. And the guy takes on this persona, and then ultimately there is some conflict about who the real Howard Spitz is. Is it this guy who's been saying he's writing the book for years, or is it this guy, Kelsey Grammer, who says, I really wrote it, and no one believes him? And so it's an interesting dilemma. He plays kind of a Frasier character, kind of a grumpy old man, and this girl is a big fan of the books, and she's the main character. There's a love story, and production value is pretty low. It's I don't know, it's probably like an 80-minute movie. It's not complex. It's something that someone could have written in their home and shot on an iPhone, and it would have been just as good. But it's just funny. You know, Kelsey Grammer is a funny actor. He's a funny guy. He's great in everything he does. This movie is really, really old, but it's just one of those check your brain out, be entertained, not overthink anything. It's a very formulaic drama, and I like it. Like I said, I've seen it a few times, and I like it. But this is the movie that I wanted to throw out there because this is actually really hard to find because nobody knows it exists. Nobody knew it existed when it came out. I'm actually sure, or I'm actually not sure what the origin story of this is because Kelsey Grammer has always been flying pretty high in his career. And so I'm not sure what inspired him to take this role in kind of this small movie, but it is funny and entertaining. So that's it. Now I'm going to have to go, based on Ricky's suggestion, go watch Paul the Alien. But these are some movies that I think you should go out and check out, especially if you're going to be homebound for a while. You can go ahead and entertain yourself. All you not entertained with something like Driven or 1 Hour Photo or Bedazzled. So there's a little bit of something, comedy, action, romance, you know, whatever you need. Check them out. That's it. That's my list for tonight. Have fun, everyone. Peter Von Panda, out.